Good morning and welcome to, I'm not sure which episode, but I think we're on a roll this morning, maybe the 6th or the 7th. And let me tell you, we have one lady here that I highly respect, that's on the road and off the road, Diane Henderson. And I think this quote is fitting for Diane. This is how I see her, especially when she's probably running past me somewhere, you know. A diamond is a lump of coal that's stuck with it. Perseverance was always what I valued most. Now, this is coming, I mean, we have heard this so many times. This is coming from a swimmer in her 60s called Diane Henderson, who swam from Florida to Cuba. And I mean, Diane has done completed some amazing feats that we're going to jump right into here. But, you know, it's crazy. You know, most of us find it so difficult to commit. And I think that is what our talk can probably be centralized around this morning, is about commitment, you know, and all the amazing feats that she has accomplished along the way. And I will allow Chris to just basically take it over here and introduce Diane so we could jump right into this conversation, because I can't wait.
So Diane Henderson is an experienced specialist with a demonstrated history of working in the sports management field. She has a passion for engaging and guiding others to be improved in their wellness status and has incorporated this into her personal health practices. She has a fierce lifestyle, and she's also skilled in event management, administration management, and project management. Diane is an executive member of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. She's a chairperson of the Trinidad and Tobago Marathon Committee and has also worked with Angostura Limited for close to 30 years. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Diane Henderson. Welcome to Titan Talks.
Hi,
Diane.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I have a question first off the bat, and leave it to the rest. I'm reading one of your quotes here. You know, you said, "I enjoy my job because I get an opportunity to impact." For 30 years, you worked in Angostura. How do you keep that energy alive, especially from that quote?
Okay, first of all, it's 29 January gone. Yeah, 1 year more would have been 30. But yeah, I think I said that when, I'm not sure where you all found that, but I said that where because in Angostura, one of the things that I was responsible for in employee relations and engagement was I developed the gym when I went in. Soon after, I changed roles, but one of the things I did was did the gym, and I also all the activities, the staff activities, you know, there are teams that did
Fusion?
No, not well, they did fusion too, but they did the other one, I can't remember names now. The team event that came after fusion. So the thing about it is that I know that when you speak to a couple of retirees and you get their feedback, you know, and they say, you know, Dan, I'm walking or I'm exercising or I'm in the yard or whatever it is, you feel fulfilled that they actually continued or started to do something when they were, it doesn't matter when they started, but the point about it is, I knew I left a legacy of people respecting and understanding what their bodies and what they should be doing in their lifestyles, you know. So everything I did was about improving who you are as an individual. And part of that alone, I mean, whether or not it was work, whether or not it was, I always instilled that sort of, so that was really impacting.
Impact. What is your, you know, I have known you, I mean, maybe close to my entire life in different capacities, obviously, but in sport, I always remember your involvement with the Trinidad and Tobago, especially with respect to me, the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. What about that kind of matches your passion for sports? Like, tell me your involvement in TTOC and also how you see it in your marathon of life, you know?
Yeah, I think that it was another arm or another branch of that, but a lot of my role there is to do with the games. And also, well, first of all, as a committee, as an executive, imparting your knowledge, because my knowledge comes from in the 90s. I started volunteering with Roadrunners Club, the club that I started running, distance running with. I mean, I did before, but, and through them they started doing race organization. Right. One of the first clubs to start that. So that's where we started volunteering. And from that, I went on to being the first female in the N3As. And from that, left a legacy of women going through the N3As, you know, and I went on and then the marathon committee. And so what I'm trying to say is that by the time I reached the Olympic Committee, I was volunteering for what, 20 something years already in Triathlon Federation. Okay. You know, so yeah, I did triathlons and I worked on the executive. So every single thing I was involved in, I got involved administratively. And through my, you know, there's a history I have to go back and see. I can't say that without, I can't say and explain this without going to back in history, but I'll go back to it afterwards. Yes. But the whole point about it is you continue to educate yourself in what you like, and all the sport management, the coaching, the technical official courses, sport medicine, all of that is a cumulative knowledge in sport that came up, that is here, which is my base. You know, I just want to explain that. So it comes naturally to me. So coming back to the TTOC is that the games, that administrative and that event organizing and that, all of that comes so naturally to me. Yes, there's a format, you have to learn it and all of that, but still even doing that, it comes naturally to me to do because it's so ingrained in who I am. You know, doing events in Angostura and doing all those things were part of
yeah. Where did it start? So, you know, take me back, because I just have almost like this blur of you always being there in the sports management framework. So tell me where it started. I didn't know that you when you tell me that the N3 is that you competed there. So tell me where it started there, what sport you started in, and then how it is that you transitioned from running to triathlons to long distance running to, you know, and to Ironmans. Yes, you know, you're an Iron Woman. You're an Iron Woman. You know, so tell me where it started, and then maybe.
Okay, let's start at school, because school I did sports days and running races and stuff. But two disciplines I did was high jump and netball, because when they asked you in high school if you want to do hockey or netball, I said netball. I don't like the stick and the hardball. So I went to netball. But from school, other than that, I did swimming. My father put us into swimming, and then we did dance. You know, my sister has her own dance school. So she continued in the dance thing, and I came out. And I came out of the swimming also because the instructor got too strict and was, you know, I hated that.
What swim team were you with?
I was in YMCA. No, not your kind of swimming. That's the point. That's the point. I never liked that stringent. Yes. Because I believe it or not, I was extremely shy and an interior kind of person, you know. So the whole thing about it is I was at YMCA, and that Chinese boy years ago, God rest his soul now. But yeah, that was very difficult. So I went on to running on my own, and I met up at Roadrunners Club. But that was after being with Hampton and doing Palo Seco and doing some track at middle distance, right? So I was involved in track in the earlies when I joined Roadrunners Club. And from Roadrunners Club, I also, and that's where the volunteerism started, when Roadrunners started doing race management under Anthony Apoy and Michael.
What year is this? What year is this? Tell us the year.
And that's in the 80s.
In the 80s,
so the 80s is when I was in Roadrunners Club. I joined somewhere around 85, 86, somewhere there. The People's Marathon was in 1987. I was doing triathlon. I did a duathlon. I joined Corky's Casual Cycle Group, and that's late 80s. And Donna Pollard and I did a duathlon November 19, 1989. Can't forget, because that was football. And we left Westmoreland. When we finished that duathlon, she beat me anyway. And we ended up at the stadium. That is so clear in my mind. I left my bike on my car in the car park somewhere downstairs. Didn't even use my ticket to get in. You know, the confusion that happened that time.
Yes.
And my bike was right there when I came back. Totally amazed after all the confusion of that game.
Of the strike squad. Okay.
Yes, you know, so
yes.
I'm just saying that since then I was in triathlon, because that was one or two of the first event I did. I think I did a small triathlon before.
Were there a lot of women in sport at that time? Because when you mentioned Pollard, Donna Pollard, was there any other women?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Lisa Coburn, Donna, Jackie Jordan. There were a few women. Lara, and they had a few people that were swimmers. You see, in those days, we used to connect, in order to have these triathlon races, we used to connect the swimmers, the top swimmers with the top cyclists, with the top runners, and have relay teams involved. And that's how some swimmers ended up transferring, or some cyclists ended up transferring. That's how you get the Neros who merge into triathlon, coming from one discipline, you know. So all of that occurred.
Okay, okay, fantastic.
And I mean, so I'm understanding that you were deeply involved in these sports, but for you, like, what is this burning desire that has kept you going for the last, it's like 3 into 4 decades of sport, you know? I mean, it sounds almost intimidating to me, of how you maintain the intensity, you know, of these things.
I think she ramped Ironman in almost 15 days. She ramped it up.
Yes. So you become more intense.
Yes, she ramped it up.
Yeah. So what is kind of like that, you know, if it is that you could coalesce it into a theme, a motto, a description of,
Melissa, when she started, she called some words: commitment, perseverance, determination. You know, funny thing is, Roadrunners Club logo used to be, I think it was consistency, persistence, and something else. You know,
yes.
But and I think those words still rule. So, but resilience and independence, those and commitment. I think that obviously, you know, everybody's upbringing has something to do about who they are.
Yes.
Everybody has something or story from down when they were a child that tells them who they are, channels them into this direction.
Yes.
And I think that my father was extremely strict and a little bit reserved, and maybe I got some of that from him. But so the whole thing about it is, when I finished secretarial school, and he said, okay, get a job. So yes, I got an interview. I did that on my own. I bought my own car, and I never asked him for anything else after that, because I figured that him telling me, okay, do these things meant that you're on your own. I took it like that, and I just, you know, was on my own. I never asked for anything. If I got something, I was very appreciative. And some people may understand me if they hear this now, why I'm the way I am. And I know you're going to ask me something later on, and I have a book in mind. It's not a big book or a known book, but it's something that I realized that.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that, you know, get me back on track.
Yeah, so you're telling me about your father. You were saying that,
right, resilience.
The resilience.
Right, and also how you deal with your siblings. You know, he was from the patriotic world, and the whole idea is that the boys got everything. The girls had to come and sit in front of the television. Yes. You know, you had to be resilient. I believe I built a lot of my resilience and competitiveness in dealing with my brother. God rest his soul. He was the closest one to me in the 4. And because I'm the last of 4. And so, you know, we always had Heather, and I always had to be, you know, fighting for our rights.
Actually proving yourself in that circumstance, or it wasn't like that? It was just a matter of how do you deal with it?
Oh, I mean, proving yourself? Well, yes, at a point, but the Henderson family is kind of argumentative. And that's how come we get that, you know, very strong, make a point. All the men would sit in the gallery, and they would be, you'd think they have an argument. This time they're only chatting, right? But so you get that. A lot of that is where we it's not about proving as such, but
yes,
maybe it comes out somehow there because you felt that you have to make your point. Your opinion matter is more like it. You know what I mean?
yes.
Because that was not always taken,
Right.
above the others.
And your father's name? Your father's name?
Halsey Henderson.
Halsey.
Also, God rest his soul. He died
Yes.
the same year that Joshua was born, 23 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So
So-
how
Yes,
old
so-
was Joshua when you did your first Ironman, Diane?
Joshua was about maybe, I think he was doing about 10 or somewhere. Wait, that was 2010. So he was born in 1997. So minus.
13.
Yeah,
13
he
years
was
old.
doing, he had delayed a year and he was doing common entrance. And I had, he was just starting, I think, Form 1, something in the other, and it was really a trying time.
Yeah.
Balance all of that and all that training and that preparation to lead up to, was it Florida? Your first Ironman?
Florida was, yes,
How you
Clement.
did it? I mean, with
Yes.
what you're managing life.
Yeah, I wouldn't lie, whether we like it or not, going through life, I think I've always been overwhelmed, but but I've dealt with it. I always think I'm
Yeah.
doing too much. Yes. Obviously, I leave a lot of other things on the side, like maybe like this kitchen, but anyway. But it's not important, and you have to get to understand that.
Believe me,
So,
I
you
get
just leave it, just don't worry about it.
Yes.
So, you do the things that you love, and you do. And coming back to Chris's question, how is it that I stayed so long? Because really, it's just my passion. One of the things I learned very early is that through my studies and through the sports and through everything is that when you learn about your veins and stuff and your arteries, and you realize that your body is the most important thing, also religiously, spiritually, that God gave you this body to, and this is the only thing that you really have in life. And I don't know how to communicate that any better to people, but take care of your body first. That's what's most important. And I think that I admire the people who have chosen to change their lifestyles and take up and just do something. And now the whole idea is about just being.
So you talk about your body. I understand absolutely about that. Do you also have that same type of philosophy with your mind? As in, do you think that there's a dichotomy there? Like how does, because I mean, when I imagine, and again, I put you up on a pedestal here because you're an Iron Man or an Iron Woman. Okay, I imagine the type of training that is required to do that type of activity, the intensity, the tenacity. Obviously there's the body, but there's the mind and the spirit. Like what do you say about it? I mean, I know you're saying it's like, oh, it's just, yeah.
Oh, no. Actually, that's many people, some people who have gone through it will let you know, will explain that is the more important thing.
Yes.
The body will carry you only so far, right? I can hear Paul Hee-Hong now shouting out or something. When I shouted out at him in 2018 or anything, I said, keep going. The fat lady didn't sing yet. We're going in opposite directions,
Yes.
But for him to finish the Ironman. But so the mind, I try to stay extremely positive. I try not to spend much time on any negatives. I listen to news, I listen to certain thing, I read, but I really try to stay, it's like a natural positive. When you have to go into an office, no matter what the state is, I learned very early that when you go to work, you don't work for yourself, you don't work for the company, you work for God, and God will carry you through that process of whatever you do. You have to find a purpose, your purpose within what you do. People say you have a career, you have your passion, those things don't necessarily meet. But you have to find what that is where you are, to find that satisfaction, to be there every day, because this is where you get your security from.
Yes.
So the positivity is a very important thing, but in terms of the resilience and the staying power, you have a goal. And when I ran races years ago, I always said, you must finish. I used to tell Joshua the same thing. The fat lady, tell the fat lady sing, and he would keep that in his mind. You have to finish the race, you have to finish the race. And it's even difficult for me now, but
yeah. So interject before we started it live, and I'm going to steal your question, Melissa. Is in this 100-mile run? Like,
yeah.
tell us about it. How, first of all, how do you even prepare for a 100-mile run? And you know how? So let me ask you a question first. So how long did it take, and how do you prepare for with your body to kind of go through this process of, I'm going to run 100 miles. You know, it seems.
Well,
it
first
seems,
of all, Christopher, you have to have a couple of crazy friends. And when you mentioned something earlier on, you know, how do you do this? Because there are a couple of crazies, and we know we are a little bit extreme, and that's what gets us doing it. So every now and again, they have some crazy ideas popping up. There are actually quite a few crazy ideas that pop up, but we have to choose. And so that 100-mile came about. And that was after Coast to Coast, after, you know, I would love to explain Coast to Coast. It was such a wonderful event. But so the whole idea is that, you know, you train by just doing mileage over a period of time. We did a couple 20-mile runs or so, and you prepare by doing shorter distances leading up to. And we did about 20, I can't remember if it was 27 hours or 29. I know Chris and they did 29. And Nigel Wall and I did it somewhere around 27 or 28. Now that was not for us doing it faster. They went by the good old Glenn Wilkes measurement, and they went to a certain spot, which took them a little longer. We went by the watch, and when we covered the 100, we stopped at that time. But 8 people, but the few of us, I think 4 or 5 of us finished the 100 that day out of the 9. Others did
it wasn't that day. It was
one night, day 20, well, 20, a day and a little bit. Day and a little bit.
Yeah, you know, they say Charles Bukowski actually has a quote, is that you're not really living life unless it is you go crazy once in a while. And that sounds like
Let me tell you,
you have to do at least something. You have to do something at least is a little bit outside the box for me to know that I can do something else that's that, or I can do.
And you're living there. I want to just go ahead, Melissa.
I have a question. I have to ask this question about Coast to Coast, because I myself wanted to do this race so badly. I heard so many things about it, and I really need to hear the intricacies, you know. This eco race, start from the beginning. Who was in your team? How you got involved in it? Who put it on?
Yeah. So Eco Adventures put it on as Ryan Menz and Shira on it. And it was over a weekend, 2 days. And the first day we started Togo. So we had to run from the Togo Lighthouse down to just not far. You pick up your bikes and you ride, you're just running a little bit down to the roundabout or something, or the beach before the roundabout, and you take up your bikes, you rode to the start of the Matlot Trail by the bridge. When you drop your bikes there and your team, all the group, the support takes your bikes and whatever, and you hike from there, Matlot to Blanchisseuse, through the whole trail.
Yeah. Wow.
This is individual, but we all around the same times. Those faster obviously will be ahead of you, those behind. Some people have the same paces, but generally, going through Madamas, which is like a wall, I find.
Yes.
I haven't done it for a long, long time, but going through Madamas, which is like a wall, when you're in there on your own, you just with your bush nature and yourself. So it could be a little intimidating for some, but you know you're in a race, and every time you think you're in a race, you just do it. So you go and you finish. When you finish Blanchisseuse, we overnight, and the next morning we ride from Blanchisseuse over into over Montcuco, passing Las Cuevas, Maracas, over into Montcuco, into Diego Martin, and we finish at the Diego Martin Blue Range, and we hike from Blue Range North Coast over into Macquarie. And when we hike, so we do the ride and the hike, second hike, and then the last one is the hardest one. And we had to kayak 32 kilometers, can't forget that distance, from Macquarie around the coast through the Boca to kayak center, going outside 5 Islands. And you had to go to the Invaders Bay and then back to So the kayak was obviously the hardest part for me, right?
Right,
But
wow.
but I did it twice, three times. Sorry.
Solo individual kayak.
Yeah. That's 3 times the kayak that whole thing.
Jeez. I wanted to interject here because I know you've mentioned Joshua and I know him. How has your, I think, you talk about your father and your parents kind of instilling a certain intensity in you. How do you think that that's transferred to your son? I know he was deeply involved in triathlons, and now he's I know he's not
he's in
competing
Sydney, Australia.
Yeah. So how's that transferred?
So Joshua used to sail first, and then he did the but he was sailing. His father is into sailing, and I was into the other sport. But through my psychology interest, I've always had an interest in psychology. Early on, I probably would have thought maybe I should be a psychologist, but
you still can. You're not a psychologist yet. You still can.
But I did the counseling thing, and when I did the counseling thing, and you study it, and so you realize that, and in Angostura, I used to be counseling a lot. But what I mean is not professionally, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you have to deal with that, it takes a lot. As you get older, you realize it takes a lot out of you, and you have to decide how much of that you want to give. But anyway, back to the so in the psychology courses, you realize I really actually had a passion for development.
Yes.
And I read 7 books in the 9 months that I was pregnant, cycling on my bike, doing anything. So all the pregnancy books, all the thing about development, because I wanted to know how to bring up this child in the best possible way. And I thought, actually, I really thought I was an expert at that afterwards. I could have opened something concerning child development by the time. I did advise a few ladies, yes. And so the whole thing about it is that made me realize, and people have to understand that there are different stages for every age, and every age you have to deal with your child differently. And one thing I know that helped me was the reasoning. For everything that child, and you wanted to just correct, reason. Don't matter what age, just communicate based on the age, but reason with them to know, so they know what the consequences for that action. So I thought that was a very good learning. That was a good action to take. And I think that from that, Joshua, he had to think about what he was doing, maybe a little more. So, and then into his sport, there was one particular race when Joshua was about 10 years old. And there was this bigger guy. This was Ian Gooden's race down by Town Hall in town. And Joshua beat this bigger guy. I still have that picture, but it made me realize he was such a determined child. He was a strong-minded child. And that's how come, I let him do more races naturally at first, in his young age. But then he started to get into it, and there were a whole group of guys that will support in the sport as well as his school. I think that's one thing I'd like to pass over for parents, make sure your kids have their surrounding support kids, because, and exchange families, they go by this family or they go by you, because that helped those boys, that support that the boys had for each other went straight through to their exams in high school. And I think that they keep in contact still, and it's so like a brotherhood, and I thought of that, just like girls have their support with their girlfriends. But
it's like a village.
It's really, really support for them when they can't communicate something to their parents. They have that from maybe another parent, because I might communicate to one of the boys better, but another parent might communicate with Joshua better. So their thing on a specific item. Don't know if I went off here, but yeah, the development and all of that helped with the child upbringing and so.
Yeah. So I do follow Joshua Silla, because I think I was a fan when he was younger in the triathlon, and between 13 and 15, 2013 and 15, he was top. So everybody, Joshua is like salt,
Yes.
I wonder where he gets that from.
So, Diane, I have one quick question for you. I think we have to bring
yes.
marathon, Trinidad and Tobago marathon that you are so integral in organizing, you know, and bringing all these people together. I mean, run us through really quickly, you know, how long you've been doing that, and, you know, these sort of, I don't know, passion that you have to put on a race like that, even though you're not a real partaker. Even though, do you partake in things like that still, or not in that race, do you?
Well, I can't partake if I'm organized, but I would love to. But when it's virtual, I can.
Yeah, sorry, that's how I was wondering.
I just didn't get the time in January when we had the virtual event to actually run the marathon, but I did the half, you know. Yeah, I've been part of the marathon committee way before, you know. I love Rafiq Shah. I find he's an admirable man. And when Clico had the race, I think it was sometime then that just at the beginning of that, or that transfer to Clico of sponsors, that I got involved. And Anthony Apoy, Francis, and a whole group of the technically minded people from athletics who also were involved with administration in athletics. So, and road running, from the road running field, because I forget, we took that from road runners and we carried it through. We had an expertise. So from then, but when Clico crashed, they had to hand it over. And Caribbean Games came Francis was the chairperson at the time, but Caribbean Games had come a year and a half before. Well, it was coming up a year and a half before, and Francis was seconded to that. So he handed over the chairpersonship to me while we were still at Clico. So I was the chairperson at Clico before they crashed. So it just happened that we continued that way. And I would like to state here that it has been the passion of wanting to keep it on, my love for marathoning, is why I believe there's a platform that this race has got to continue. Next year is our 40th anniversary. Wow. And I would like to see some people who love marathoning, love the distance running, to come and get involved. There's a road for it going forward. I can't be there forever. I don't want to be there forever, you know. Please come forward, you know, and take this thing and let's go with it, you know, because
planning.
Huh?
Yeah. Session planning. It's
yeah. We need to.
Yeah. So I mean, so before Mel closes up, you know the question that's coming. What is a book? What is a book? Book that you would suggest?
Yeah. You know, I'm watching a million books on my shelf here. I got rid of a few, but you know, it's a simple book. But why I did it is because it was a fault of mine. As I said, I never asked for anything. I still find it difficult. And with networking today, it's something that we need to do. We need to partner. We need to mesh, and it's very difficult for me. However, Amanda Palmer had a book, The Art of Asking, and I recommend that for anybody who you know, who has a challenge, you know. So it kind of got me in a place where I had to think about how I approach the stuff.
All right, wow. And that would have led to transformation if it's against your nature. That's okay, The Art of Asking. Thank you so much. Yeah. I always feel like you get a deep reflection on someone when they've explored a book and you're like, hey, go and read this. And then you kind of, even without them telling you, you kind of get a little bit of a piece of their knowledge because you know, it's imprinted onto them. But thanks for that, Diane. That's good. I will add that. I've actually added every book that people have suggested, and my goal is to read every single one that someone tells me in Titan Talks. So that's definitely going to enrich my my forward plan.
I think you have to share all the books because I didn't get all, so I need to get the list.
Yeah. We are
put the list somewhere.
That list, Diane. You don't worry. We are. You're gonna have a Titans book club.
Okay.
Okay.
So many things making, so many things bubbling. It's exciting times. Yeah. But you know, Diane, thank you so very much for taking the time this morning. You know, you really opened up and you were vulnerable, and you know, just how you ended there by, you know, highlighting that you have a growth mindset, you know, because you are admitting wholeheartedly that you're in the process of always unlearning. You know, yes, it may be difficult now, But again, you're in the process of unlearning, unraveling to become greater, because, you know, you're always stepping into new roles, stepping into new challenges. And you know what, as a woman, you know what, you're just blazing the path, and you have been for so many years. And we thank you, you know, we thank you for doing what you're doing, and being a trailblazer. So
Thank you very much.
absolutely.
Thank you so
Natural,
much.
but
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
all right.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Right. All right. Until next time, Mel, thank you as usual. Diane, thank you again. You know, until next week for our Titan Talks. Okay.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.